I can't. And I think it's my fault that the game is being played the way it's played now, because when I was dominating the post, they tried to bring in centers to bring me out from the post. And then we're all products of our generation, so shoot the jumper. So it's my fault that guys are playing soft.
Anthony Edwards has sparked a heated basketball debate after making a bold claim about the NBA legends of the 1980s, suggesting that aside from Michael Jordan, the era did not feature many truly skilled players. His comments quickly drew attention because Larry Bird, one of the greatest and most respected players in basketball history, was among the legends being questioned. What started as a modern versus old school debate soon became much more intense when Shaquille O'Neal responded, defending the greatness of the previous generation and challenging the idea that today's players are automatically more talented. Edwards' remarks have now opened a much bigger conversation about how the modern NBA views its history and whether young stars fully understand just how skilled and competitive players like Bird really were. Once you look closer at Bird's abilities, accomplishments, and impact on the game, it becomes easier to understand why Shaq felt the need to push back.
Didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. They say it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anybody had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one that really had skill, you know what I mean? So that's why when they saw Kobe, they were like, oh my God, but now everybody has skill.
Larry Bird had no skill? That's the controversial idea now being connected to Anthony Edwards' comments. But Bird was far more than just a great shooter from the 1980s. He was a confident competitor who could dominate games with his shooting, passing, vision, and basketball IQ. He famously walked into a three-point contest with incredible confidence and made it clear he expected to win, then backed up those words on the court. Bird could even read defenders so well that he would reveal where he planned to shoot and still knock down the basket right in front of them. What makes Edwards' comments even more surprising is that he admitted he hasn't watched much old-school NBA basketball. Before judging Bird's talent, it's worth looking at what the Celtics legend actually accomplished and why so many fans still regard him as one of the greatest players ever.
Bird comes in and says, which one of you is going to come in second place? Nobody said nothing.
The room reportedly went silent because everyone already knew Bird was confident enough to back up his words. He wasn't simply talking big, he had the skill and composure to deliver when it mattered most. His sharp shooting, smart play, and fearless mentality made him a nightmare for opponents. That level of confidence and execution is exactly why Bird's talent remains so respected today.
He said, I'm gonna wait till you get one step away from me and I'm gonna shoot it right in your face. No, true story. So I got one step away, he shoots it all net, 3-pointer, good. Then he turned to me and said, you did all that running for nothing.
Bird didn't just beat defenders with his skills, he often beat them with his mind first. He could tell a defender exactly what shot was coming, wait for the reaction, and then calmly knock down the basket anyway. That kind of confidence turned every possession into a mental battle. Bird knew how to get inside an opponent's head, and once he had the advantage, he rarely let it go. This is the same Larry Bird whose talent Anthony Edwards questioned, making the debate even more surprising.
He walked off and said, legend.
Bird didn't need a big celebration after making his point. Sometimes, a simple word or quiet walk back said everything. He played with a level of confidence that made even great defenders feel the pressure. That's why Edwards' comments have created such a strong reaction. The players who actually faced Bird knew firsthand how difficult it was to deal with his skill, confidence, and control.
That's flagrantly disrespectful to the old guard. Larry Bird wasn't skilled.
Magic.
Isaiah Thomas was one of the greatest skilled guards in the history of basketball. Magic Johnson was 6'9", a 6'9" point guard. We had never seen anything like him.
Many basketball fans saw Edwards' comments as a major disrespect to Larry Bird and the era he dominated. Bird won 3 consecutive MVP awards while competing against legends like Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Isaiah Thomas, and Julius Erving. So calling him unskilled ignores just how difficult that competition was. It also makes the debate more surprising because Edwards has admitted he didn't spend much time studying older NBA games. But what makes this story even more interesting is that Bird himself once addressed the debate over different basketball eras, and his response was far more unexpected than many people would imagine.
Every decade's different. The game changes. They always try to compare players now to back in the 80s and 70s, which you cannot do. It's a whole different ball game.
Bird understood that basketball changes with every generation, which is why he believed comparing players from different eras was never that simple. The rules, style, pace, and competition all evolve over time, so judging one generation by another can be misleading. But his point also highlights why respecting the legends who built the game matters. That is where Edwards' comments created such a strong reaction, eventually bringing Shaquille O'Neal into the debate. And when Shaq heard what had been said about Bird and the older generation, he didn't hold back. He came into the conversation with a much stronger response.
If you ain't building, you're not in the...
Shaq's perspective comes from experience, not from the sidelines. He grew up watching legends like Dr. J, competed against Michael Jordan, and later shared the court with Kobe Bryant during one of the NBA's most dominant runs. So when Shaq pushes back against the idea that older players lacked skill, he speaks from first-hand experience. His critics may call it nostalgia, but his resume tells a different story. With 4 championships, 3 finals MVP awards, and a reputation as one of the most unstoppable forces in NBA history, Shaq has more than enough experience to have a strong opinion on how the game has changed. Shaq's message was straightforward. It's hard to dismiss his opinion as hate when he has already reached the highest level of the game. From his perspective, his championships and years of competition give him a unique view of how basketball has changed. But his comments became even more pointed when he separated a few modern players from the rest. Shaq suggested that only a small number of today's stars truly stand out to him, despite the league being filled with highly paid talent. He didn't need to name everyone he disagreed with. The message was clear enough.
Joe can't play.
Then Shaq took the conversation in an unexpected direction. Instead of putting all the blame on today's players, he admitted that he was also part of the reason the game has changed. That admission added a surprising twist to his argument and made his comments about the modern NBA even more interesting.
And I think it's my fault that the game is being played the way it's played now, because when I was dominating the post and tried to bring in centers to bring me out from the post. And then we're all products of our generation, so shoot the jumper. So it's my fault that guys are playing soft, what I call.
Shaq's impact on the NBA was so massive that teams had to change their strategies just to compete with him. There were few players who could match his size, strength, and physical dominance inside the paint. As the league evolved, teams began relying more on stretch bigs who could shoot from the outside rather than traditional centers battling in the post. That shift gradually moved the game away from the tough, physical style that players like Larry Bird thrived in. Shaq now acknowledges that his own dominance helped influence that transformation, even though he isn't impressed with everything the modern game has become.
I hate big guys shooting threes, but hopefully somebody brings it back. However, if I was playing today, though, they would have to change for me.
Shaq's point goes beyond simple trash talk. His argument is that a prime version of himself in today's NBA would force teams to make major adjustments almost immediately. Coaches would need new defensive plans, and modern big men might be pushed back toward defending the paint instead of staying outside to shoot threes. But Shaq believes the change goes even deeper than the role of centers. He connected the evolution of today's NBA to a specific player and team, taking the conversation in an entirely different direction.
Steph Curry and those guys messed it up. Like, I don't mind Golden State back in the day shooting threes, but every team's not a three-point shooter. So why everybody has the same strategy, I think it makes the game boring.
That's where Shaq's criticism gets even more interesting. He believes the modern NBA can sometimes feel too predictable, with teams constantly moving the ball, hunting for open threes, and repeating the same patterns. In Bird's era, teams often had much stronger identities and distinct styles. Utah leaned heavily on the Stockton-Malone pick-and-roll, while the Lakers built their game around a different system and Miami brought its own approach. Each team felt unique, with a style fans could recognize instantly. Shaq's argument is that today's league has become more similar from team to team, and he worries that some of that individuality is slowly disappearing.
The game has already been perfect ever since Naismith, created it. It's perfect. We as humans.
That's why Edwards' comments have drawn even more criticism. The era he described as lacking skill was also known for its intense physicality and demanding style of play. Larry Bird spent 13 seasons competing in that environment, taking hard contact, chasing loose balls, and continuing to play through serious injuries. He dealt with a broken face and major back problems that eventually contributed to the end of his career. By comparison, today's NBA places much greater emphasis on protecting offensive players and limiting physical contact. So questioning Bird's skill without considering the era he played in leaves out a major part of what made his career so impressive.
Less physical, more physical, man, but...
That's why many basketball analysts believe a prime Shaq would create serious problems in today's NBA. Even elite defenders from his own era struggled to slow him down. Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, and Patrick Ewing were among the league's best defensive big men, yet Shaq still found ways to dominate against them. His combination of size, strength, and power made him an almost impossible matchup, raising an interesting question about how today's smaller and more perimeter-focused teams would try to handle him.
Shaquille O'Neal, what can you do? Literally.
Well, nobody could do then, so shit.
Literally. What the fuck are you guys? You guys don't do nothing out there right now.
So what would happen if a prime Shaq entered today's NBA? That's the question that keeps coming up, and the matchup would be difficult for almost any team to solve. With fewer traditional centers and more big men spending time on the perimeter, Shaq's size and inside strength could create major problems. His physical style would give him opportunities to attack the paint repeatedly and control the boards. Shaq has even suggested that he would overwhelm modern defenders to the point where they simply wouldn't want to keep facing him. That confidence shows just how dominant he believes his game would be in today's league.
There's no MVP big man that's going to play defense.
Right. So we think
Hakeem was a defensive player. David Robinson, defensive player.
Yeah.
Patrick Ewing, defensive player. Those bigs played defense.
And he was eating their lunch.
40 and 15. Yeah. Easy.
That was the kind of dominance Shaq brought to an NBA where every game demanded physical strength, toughness, and mental focus. His argument is that modern players may not fully understand that level of pressure because they never experienced it firsthand. That's why Anthony Edwards' comments about Larry Bird have caused such a strong reaction. To many fans, the criticism sounds disconnected from the era Bird actually played in. Shaq's larger point is simple. It's difficult to judge greatness when you haven't taken the time to understand the players and competition that came before you.
Any guy, they know it.
No real film study, no deep knowledge of the era, and yet Edwards still made a strong judgment about one of basketball's greatest shooters. That's why the comment has been viewed as more than just a bold opinion. Larry Bird played in a generation that Shaq knew well, and Shaq experienced that level of competition firsthand. He has even spoken about being intimidated by Michael Jordan, who played during the same era Edwards dismissed. If a player as dominant and physically powerful as Shaq could recognize the greatness of that generation, then calling its stars unskilled becomes a much harder argument to defend.
He's the only man that had me terrified on the court. Because I went from high school admiring him, college admiring him, and then he's right there in front of you. And all the shit you see on your poster, like he's doing it in real life.
That's why many fans see Edwards' comment as more than just a questionable opinion. It overlooks the work and talent of the players who helped shape the NBA into what it is today. Larry Bird's confidence was backed by his performance, whether he was dominating a three-point contest, predicting his shots before defenders could react, or controlling games with his passing and basketball IQ. Calling that kind of ability no skill makes the bigger issue about how modern players judge the past. Without understanding the history and competition that built the league, it becomes easy to overlook just how special those earlier generations really were. That's the bigger issue Shaq is pointing toward. This debate is no longer just about one comment, it's about how easily some people can overlook the history of the game. The legends of earlier generations faced long seasons, demanding travel, intense physical battles, and pressure on every possession. Those players helped create the standard that today's stars are still trying to reach. So Shaq isn't simply defending Larry Bird, he's standing up for an entire generation that helped build the NBA into the global game it is today. Basketball has always changed with time, but one thing should never disappear: respect for the players and generations that built the game. The legends of the past didn't simply step onto the court and become great overnight. They studied their opponents, adapted to different challenges, respected the players who came before them, and pushed themselves through an era where the game demanded toughness, discipline, and mental strength on almost every possession. That's why comments about older generations can become so controversial when they come from someone who hasn't really taken the time to watch or understand that era. Imagine if Larry Bird or Michael Jordan casually dismissed today's players as unskilled without ever studying how they play. Fans would immediately question the statement, and rightly so. The same standard should work in both directions. You don't have to believe the 1980s were better than today, and you don't have to believe today's NBA is better than the past. Every era has its own rules, strategies, athletes, strengths, and weaknesses. But you can't fairly judge one generation without understanding what made it difficult and what those players accomplished under the conditions they faced. That is what makes this entire Anthony Edwards, Larry Bird, and Shaquille O'Neal debate bigger than one controversial comment. It has become a conversation about how basketball remembers greatness and whether modern players truly appreciate the foundation that was built before them. Bird, Jordan, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Isaiah Thomas, Julius Erving, and countless others helped create the standard that today's stars are chasing. They played through injuries, intense competition, demanding travel, physical defense, and enormous pressure, all while helping turn the NBA into the global sport it is today. Their careers were not perfect, and every era has flaws, but their impact cannot simply be erased because the game now looks different. Shaq's reaction reflects that larger frustration. He isn't only defending one player, he is defending the history, sacrifices, and achievements of an entire generation. At the same time, today's players deserve credit for how they have pushed basketball forward with new skills, advanced training, spacing, three-point shooting, athleticism, and different tactical approaches. That evolution is part of what makes the sport special. Greatness can look different from one decade to another, but true greatness remains recognizable because it comes with results, consistency, influence, and the ability to perform when the pressure is highest. So perhaps the real lesson from this debate is simple. You don't have to choose between old-school basketball and the modern game. You can appreciate both while understanding that each generation faced challenges the other never had to experience. What matters is learning the history before making sweeping judgments about it. Because when you remove the context, you risk turning basketball history into nothing more than a collection of opinions. And when you understand the full story, you realize that the legends didn't just play the game, they helped shape the game that today's stars inherited. So now the question goes to the fans. Was Anthony Edwards simply giving an honest opinion about an era he never watched closely, or did his comments cross the line into disrespect? Can modern players criticize the past while still appreciating what those legends accomplished? Let us know where you stand, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with another basketball fan. Because the debate between generations will probably never end, but the best way to keep it meaningful is to know the history before judging it.